So, how are you feeling? Now, I want you to really think about that for just a second. It is probably the absolute most common question in the English language, right? Yet, ironically, it's also the most dishonestly answered question we encounter every single day. We just ask it reflexively, and, well, we answer it just as fast.
Fine. Busy. Good. You know the drill. We instinctively hide our actual true feelings right behind these socially acceptable little lies. It's like we treat our emotions as if they're just, inconvenient static, getting in the way of our productivity. But what if, and hear me out, what if pretending we don't have these feelings is actually the exact thing holding us back, like in our careers, our relationships, and even in our own heads?
Okay, let's dive into this explainer, because today we are promising a fundamental shift in exactly how you view your own mind. We're going to completely dismantle this outdated idea that emotions are just messy, useless distractions, and instead we'll show you how they are actually the most powerful, underutilized data points you possess.
Here is our quick roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the cost of hidden emotions. Then, why IQ is simply not enough. Third, reading your emotional data. Fourth, mastering emotional self-control. And finally, number 5, the emotionally intelligent future. All right, starting with Section 1, the cost of hidden emotions.
Right now, we are facing a massive societal crisis of emotional suppression. You see it everywhere, from the tough-it-out mentality on the playground straight to the stiff corporate boardroom. But as psychologist Mark Brackett puts it, the irony here is that when we ignore our feelings or suppress them, they only become stronger. Think of it like this. Unexpressed emotions, they don't just magically vanish. They pile up. It's literally like a high-interest debt that eventually poisons everything we do and causes this mass, society-wide burnout.
Moving along to Section 2, why IQ is not enough.
So, for the longest time, right, we've basically been sold this myth that pure intellect and a fancy academic pedigree are all you really need to succeed. But brace yourself for this bombshell data from Daniel Goleman's research. When you actually correlate IQ scores with real-world career performance, the absolute highest estimate of how much difference IQ makes is about 25%. Yes, 25%. That leaves a massive 75% of your career success completely unexplained by raw intelligence.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we're talking about here. Take a look at these 2 Yale students from Goleman's case studies, Penn and Matt. So Penn was this brilliant, highly creative student, just a true exemplar of academia. But he was also unbelievably arrogant. On paper, spectacular. In reality, his arrogance totally shone through in interviews. He ended up getting only 1 job offer and literally got let go after 2 years. Now, Matt, on the other hand, had very average academics, but he was highly adept interpersonally. People just loved working with the guy. Matt walked away with 7 job offers out of 8 interviews and went on to have massive career success. It just proves that emotional intelligence decisively outpaces raw IQ out there in the real world.
Which brings us to Section 3, reading your emotional data.
Now, what's really interesting about this concept is how it reframes our feelings. We have to stop seeing them as useless static and start seeing them as critical biological news reports from our psyche. Look at the mood meter right here. Most of us, if asked how we feel, we just say we're happy or sad. But notice this vast, incredibly nuanced spectrum plotted out by energy and pleasantness. Pinpointing exactly where you are on this grid, like knowing the actual difference between feeling frustrated and annoyed or motivated versus exhilarated, that is the absolute first step to truly understanding your emotional data.
To really process this data, Daniel Goleman mapped out 5 core pillars that make up the anatomy of emotional intelligence. First up is self-awareness, basically knowing what you're feeling and why. Then motivation, actually using those emotions to pursue your goals. Self-regulation, handling your impulses so they don't handle you. Empathy, which is like your social radar for what others are feeling. And finally, adeptness in relationships, the art of influence and collaboration. You really need all 5 of these working together in perfect harmony.
All right, Section 4, mastering emotional self-control. I want you to think about the very last time you were triggered, maybe by a really sharp, passive-aggressive email from your boss. Your heart raced, your jaw probably clenched, and you might have reacted in a way you totally regretted later. Let's fix that with your first toolkit cheat code, the sacred pause. It is literally just the profound act of pausing for a split second between a stimulus and your reaction. In that microscopic space, you take back control. You give your rational brain a second to catch up with your primal instincts, which lets you choose a deliberate, thoughtful response over just a destructive impulse.
Tactic number 2 is affect labeling. This just means verbally naming the specific emotion you're experiencing.
So instead of just raging, you calmly say to yourself, okay, I am feeling intense frustration right now. And this is wild. Neuroscience actually shows that putting feelings into words literally hits the brake pedal in your brain's amygdala, the fear and anger center, and shifts all that processing over to your prefrontal cortex, the logical part of your brain. So remember, name it to tame it.
Next up, we have cognitive reappraisal. This is basically the superpower of reframing. It means intentionally reinterpreting the meaning of a really challenging situation. So instead of thinking, my boss is actively trying to ruin my life with this ridiculous deadline, you reframe it objectively. You say, okay, my boss is probably under immense pressure from her superiors, and she's just passing that urgency down to me. This sort of compassionate, objective reframing completely alters the emotional impact the event has on you, totally preventing an unhelpful outburst.
Let's move to and see how this builds, especially when you are in the absolute heat of the moment and you need a reliable sequence to string all these tools together. Enter the SBNRR method. Yes, I know it is bizarrely named after the Siberian North Railroad, but it's an incredibly effective chronological strategy for keeping your cool when the pressure spikes.
So SBRR stands for 5 really simple steps. Step 1, stop. Literally just do not act. Step 2, breathe. Taking a deep, mindful breath floods your brain with oxygen and engages your rational mind. Step 3, notice. Pay attention to your body. Is your chest super tight? Step 4, reflect. Use that cognitive reappraisal we just talked about. Why is this actually happening? And finally, step 5, respond. Notice it's respond, not react. You are now making a highly conscious, emotionally intelligent choice.
Bringing us to Section 5, the emotionally intelligent future.
When an entire team actually masters these tools individually, the team chemistry creates this massive multiplicative effect, raising what we call the group IQ. The best talents of one person literally catalyze the best in another. Take the British retail chain Marks & Spencer. They do something super fascinating. They actually give their regular external suppliers a head office keycard. Now, I know that seems like a massive security vulnerability, right? But it's actually an intentional micro-strategy to build deep trust and mutual understanding. By treating their suppliers almost like family, they foster a cooperative climate that yields massively better business results than if they were just constantly arguing over spreadsheets. They are literally leveraging emotional intelligence at a corporate scale.
So the crucial point is that this entire framework is summarized perfectly by this bit of ancient wisdom from Plato. All learning has an emotional base. Our feelings aren't a distraction from our true potential, guys. They actually dictate our true potential. From the boardroom to the living room, if you can't navigate the emotional landscape, all the technical skills in the world just won't save you.
Which brings us right back to where we started today. You now have the science, you have the vocabulary, and you have the cheat codes to stop suppressing and start actually navigating your inner life. You have the permission to feel. So I'll ask you one more time, and I really want you to step into this new paradigm. Next time someone asks how you are, what will you really say?